Hello, my dear friends. Thank you for coming to sit with me for a little while. I'm so glad you're here. You know, there's a feeling you get after a terrible storm has finally passed. The thunder is gone, the rain has stopped, the air is clean and fresh, and everything is quiet. A deep, peaceful quiet. That's how I feel right now, sitting here in my little home, looking out at the ocean. I can finally breathe. I can finally rest. But not so long ago, my life was the storm. It was loud and scary, and I didn't know if I would survive it. My story is one I never thought I'd tell. It's about my husband, Mark, the man I loved for 23 years, the man I built a life with, the man who left me for a younger woman, divorced me, and then moved her into our home. He stood on our front porch, the one I painted myself, and told me to leave. He told me the house was his. He was so sure of himself, so confident that he had won and I had lost. But he was wrong. This is the story of how I found my strength when I had none left. This is the story of how I cashed out and left them both homeless. Before I begin, I want to ask you for one small thing. If you've ever felt heartbroken, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, if you've ever felt that cold fear of starting over, then please do me a kindness. Please subscribe to this channel. Think of it as joining a family of people who understand, a family that supports each other. When you subscribe, you're telling me that my story matters. You're also telling YouTube that stories like mine are important, so they can show it to other people who might need to hear it tonight. It's a simple click, but it means the world to me. So please, click subscribe now. I'll wait. Thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. Now, let's begin. Let me take you back in time. Let me show you the life I had before everything fell apart. It all started 23 years ago. Mark and I were so young. Our hands were soft, our faces were smooth, and our hearts were full of nothing but hope for the future. We bought a house. It was a small, simple 3-bedroom ranch house on a quiet street. It wasn't anything fancy. The carpet was a horrible green color. The kitchen cabinets were old and yellow. The front porch was cracked. But when we stood there on that first day, holding the keys, it was the most beautiful place in the world. It was ours. We were going to build our life there. Mark had big dreams. He always wanted to start his own business. He was so smart, so full of ideas. I believed in him completely. I worked as a receptionist at a dentist's office. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was steady. It paid our bills. In the beginning, money was very tight. The mortgage was a stretch for us. There were months when we worried about how we would pay it. So, I did what you do when you're a team. I didn't complain. I went out and got a second job. I worked 3 evenings a week and every Saturday at a fabric store in the mall. I would stand on my feet for 8 hours, cutting fabric for curtains and dresses, listening to the hum of the sewing machines people rented. I remember coming home so tired. My back ached, my feet were sore. I'd walk in the door and Mark would be at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, sketching out his business plans. The whole table would be covered in them. He'd look up at me with those hopeful eyes. "Just you wait, Linda," he'd say. "When my business takes off, you won't have to work another day in your life. I'm going to take care of you. We're going to be rich." I'd just smile and go rub his shoulders. "I don't need to be rich, honey," I'd tell him. "This is enough. This house, you and me, This is all I need. I meant it. Every word. Years went by. Slowly, his business began to grow. It was a marketing company. He started getting more clients. The money started getting a little better. I was able to quit my second job at the fabric store. That was a happy day for me. We finally had some money to fix up our little house. And we did. We poured our hearts into it. We were a real team during that time. I was the one who talked to the contractors. I picked out the paint colors. I remember we spent a whole weekend just painting the living room. We got paint all over our clothes, and we laughed about it. We knocked down a wall between the kitchen and the dining room to make one big open space. We saved up for months to put in new granite countertops. We bought a new, comfortable sofa that we both loved. And we built a sunroom. That was my favorite thing. It was a room full of windows looking out onto the backyard. We would have our morning coffee in there on Sundays. It was so peaceful. In the backyard, I planted a magnolia tree. I bought it as a tiny little sapling from a local nursery. I dug the hole myself. I watered it. I fertilized it. I watched over it. That tree grew along with our lives. Every spring, it would bloom with these huge, beautiful white flowers. It was a symbol of something permanent, something that was growing and getting stronger, just like us. At least, that's what I thought. Looking back now, I can see the first little cracks starting to appear. They were so small, I didn't even notice them at the time. When Mark's business became really successful, he started to change. The hopeful, grateful man I married started to become different. He became more confident, which was good, but that confidence turned into arrogance. He started working later and later. He said he had business dinners. Then he started taking trips out of town for conferences. He was gone more and more. Our quiet dinners together became rare. Our Sunday morning coffees in the sunroom stopped happening. He was always too busy, too tired, too preoccupied. The house, the one we had poured so much love into, started to feel empty, even when he was home. He'd be in his home office on the phone, and I'd be in the living room watching television alone. The silence between us grew louder and louder. And then I started to smell it. A new perfume on his clothes. It was a strong, floral, expensive smell. It wasn't anything I owned. I remember holding one of his shirts to my face, smelling that strange perfume, and feeling a cold knot form in my stomach. One night, I got the courage to ask him about it. "Mark," I said, my voice a little shaky, "your laundry, it smells like perfume." He didn't even look up from his phone. He just shrugged. "It's a client," he said, his voice annoyed. "She wears a ton of the stuff. It gets all over the office. It's disgusting." I stood there, waiting for him to say more, to look at me, to reassure me. But he didn't. He just kept scrolling on his phone. I wanted so badly to believe him. I told myself I was being silly, a paranoid, middle-aged wife. I was embarrassed by my own fear, so I buried that feeling deep down inside. I pretended everything was fine. But everything was not fine. The cracks were getting bigger. I was just choosing not to see them. The end of my marriage didn't come with a bang. It came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. It was raining, a soft gray rain that made the whole world look washed out and sad. Mark came home in the middle of the day. That was strange. He wasn't wearing his usual suit. He was wearing a polo shirt and khakis. He looked like a stranger. "Linda," he said, "we need to talk." My heart immediately started pounding. I knew. Somehow, I just knew what was coming. That cold knot in my stomach came back, tighter than ever. We sat down at our beautiful kitchen island, the same island where we had shared so many meals, so many laughs. I put my hands on the cool granite, trying to steady myself. He didn't look me in the eye. He looked at a spot on the wall behind me. "I'm not happy," he said. Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow. He kept talking. He said he felt trapped. He said he needed more space. He said he needed to find himself. The words sounded like a bad movie. They didn't sound like my husband. And then he said it. "There's someone else, Linda." The room started to spin. I held onto the countertop. "Her name is Chloe." Chloe. The name sounded young and sharp. It sounded like the expensive perfume. "I want a divorce," he said. His voice was flat, empty. "I've already talked to a lawyer. I think it's best if we keep this civil." Civil. He wanted to be civil while he was tearing my heart out. I don't remember much of what happened after that. It's all a blur. I think I just sat there in complete shock. I couldn't speak. I couldn't cry. I was just numb. The divorce was a nightmare. He had all the money. He had a powerful, aggressive lawyer. I felt so small and so scared. I hired a nice, older lawyer who told me to be reasonable and to avoid a fight. Mark offered me a settlement. It was a lump sum of money. It seemed like a lot at first, but it was nothing compared to what he was worth, to what we had built together. But I was so tired. I was so heartbroken. I just wanted the pain to end. So, I signed the papers. The divorce papers said I had 60 days to move out of our house, our home. The next 2 months were some of the darkest of my life. I had to pack up 23 years of my life. Every box I packed felt like I was burying a part of myself. I packed up our photo albums, pictures from our wedding, so young and in love, pictures from vacations, pictures of us holding our daughter Sarah when she was a baby. She was all grown up now, living in another state, and she was just as devastated as I was. I packed up my good china, the set my mother gave me. I wrapped each plate and cup in newspaper, my tears sometimes smudging the ink. I was packing up my life, and Mark was almost never there. He had already moved most of his things into a new apartment. He was already starting his new life while I was busy boxing up our old one. I felt like a ghost in my own home. And then the unthinkable happened. It was a bright, sunny afternoon. I was in the kitchen, packing up the pots and pans, when I heard the sound of a large truck rumbling down our quiet street. I looked out the window. It was a moving truck, a big, white, shiny moving truck. It parked right in front of my house. My heart stopped. A little red sports car pulled in behind it. A woman got out. She was young, probably in her early 30s. She had long, straight blonde hair and was wearing high heels and a tight dress. It was Chloe. And then Mark's car pulled up. He got out, walked over to her, and put his arm around her. He kissed her. Right there. On my front porch. On the porch where we used to sit on summer nights and talk about our dreams. I felt like I was going to throw up. I felt like I was having a nightmare. I walked to the front door and opened it. The look on Mark's face was not guilt. It was not shame. It was annoyance. Like I was a bother. "Linda," he said, his voice cold. "I thought you'd be gone by now." "What are you doing, Mark?" I asked, my voice a trembling whisper. "We're moving in," he said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "This is my house. It's time for you to go." Chloe gave me a little smile. It wasn't a kind smile. It was a smug, victorious smile. "We can give you another day if you need," she said, in a syrupy sweet voice that made my skin crawl. I looked at Mark, the man I had loved since I was a young woman, the man I had worked 2 jobs for, the man I had built a home with, and I saw a complete stranger, a cold, heartless stranger. He was throwing me out of my own home. He was moving his new girlfriend into the house that I had made into a home. I turned around without another word. I went back inside, closed the door, and slid down to the floor. I finally cried. Great, heaving sobs that came from a place so deep inside me I didn't even know it existed. I had never felt so betrayed, so worthless, so broken. But as I sat there on the floor, listening to the sound of their voices and their movers carrying in their new furniture, something shifted inside me. The tears stopped. The pain was still there, but it was changing. It was hardening. It was turning into something else. It was turning into anger. And it was turning into strength. A quiet, clear thought entered my mind. This is not over. I got up off the floor. I wiped my face. I had to get out of that house. I couldn't stay there another minute with them in it. I grabbed the last of my boxes and I left. I went to the small, furnished apartment I had rented. It was beige and plain, and it didn't feel like home. But it was a place to think. All I could hear in my head were Mark's words. "This is my house. It's mine." Was it? Was it really his house? A memory, fuzzy and old, started to poke at the edge of my mind. It was from a long time ago, maybe 10 or 11 years. Mark's business was in trouble. He needed money to keep it going. We decided to get a second mortgage on our house. I remembered going to the bank with him. We sat in a small office with a serious-looking woman named Mrs. Gable. She was the loan officer. I remembered her explaining the process. She said that to get the loan approved quickly, it would be easier if they only used my income and credit on the application. My credit score was a little better than Mark's at the time. She suggested that Mark sign a document called a Quitclaim Deed. "It's just a formality," Mrs. Gable had said, looking at Mark over her glasses. "It temporarily removes your name from the title for the purpose of this loan. It makes the process much faster. Once the loan is secure and your business is more established, we can easily add your name back onto the title. It's a very simple procedure later on." Mark had been so anxious to get the money. "Whatever it takes," he had said, signing the paper without even reading it carefully. He pushed it across the desk. "It doesn't matter, Linda. We're a team. What's mine is yours." I had felt a little uneasy about it at the time, but he was right. We were a team. I trusted him, so I signed the papers too, and we got the loan. The business survived. It started to grow. Life got busy. We never, ever went back to the bank to put his name back on the house title. We completely forgot about it. It was just one of those things you mean to do but never get around to. Could it be? After all these years? My heart started to race. I felt a jolt of electricity go through my body. I had to know for sure. The next morning, I went back to the house. It was early, before Mark and Chloe would be awake. I still had my key. I let myself in as quietly as I could. The house was a mess, with boxes and new furniture everywhere. It broke my heart to see it. I went straight down to the basement. In the corner was an old metal filing cabinet where I kept all of our important documents. I had the key on my keychain. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely get the key in the lock. I finally got it open and pulled out the heavy drawer. I found the file labeled House. I pulled out the thick folder and laid it on top of the cabinet. I started sifting through the papers. The original mortgage, the paperwork for the second mortgage, insurance documents, and then I saw it. A document with the words Quitclaim Deed across the top in bold letters. I held my breath as I read it. The legal language was complicated, but the meaning was clear. It stated that Mark Anderson was transferring all of his rights, title, and interest in the property located at our address to me, Linda Marie Anderson. His signature was at the bottom, his familiar, confident signature, and it was notarized. There was no other document in the folder putting his name back on the title. We had never done it. The house was not his. The house was mine. Only mine. It had been mine for over a decade, and neither of us had even realized it. A wave of emotions crashed over me. First, disbelief, then shock, and then a slow, burning sense of justice. He had been so arrogant, so sure that he had taken everything from me. He had thrown me out of my own house. He had moved his girlfriend into my home, and he had no legal right to be there at all. He was a squatter in the life he had stolen from me. I carefully, quietly put the quitclaim deed back in the folder. I put the folder back in the filing cabinet, and I locked it. I didn't take the paper with me. I didn't want them to know that I knew. Not yet. I had the power now, and I needed to be smart about how I used it. I went back to my little apartment, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm. I had a plan. The first thing I did was find a new lawyer. I didn't want my nice old lawyer. I wanted a fighter. I asked around and found a woman named Angela Russo. Her website said she specialized in real estate litigation and contentious divorce. She was known for being tough. I made an appointment and went to her office. It was a modern, sleek office. Angela was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. I told her my story. I showed her the picture I had taken of the quitclaim deed on my phone. She looked at it, and a slow, grim smile spread across her face. "Mrs. Anderson," she said, looking me straight in the eye, "this is one of the clearest cases I've ever seen. The house is yours. He has zero claim to it. The divorce settlement is final, but it never addressed the house because it was never his asset to divide. He committed a massive error." "What do I do?" I asked her. "We have several options," she said. "We can sue him for trespassing. We can formally evict him. But given the circumstances, I have another idea." She leaned forward. "I know a developer. He's been buying up properties on your street to build new townhomes. He pays cash, and he buys quickly. He's not sentimental. He'll tear the house down." Sell the house. The idea was so final. It meant the physical end of the life Mark and I had built. There would be no house to go back to, no memories left in the walls. But that life was already over. The memories were already poisoned. "If we sell it," Angela explained, "you get the money. All of it. And he and his girlfriend get a very unpleasant surprise from the new owner. It's clean, it's fast, and it's legally bulletproof. I thought about it for a moment. I thought about Mark and Chloe in my sunroom, in my kitchen, sleeping in my bed. Yes, I said, my voice firm. Sell it. Angela got to work. She contacted the developer. He drove by the house that same afternoon. He made a cash offer within 24 hours. It was a fair offer, not the highest possible price, but it was a lot of money, and it was fast. I went back to Angela's office and signed the papers. The house was sold. I never had to see Mark or Chloe again. I never had to argue with them. The law was on my side, and we let it do the talking. The sale was finalized in less than 3 weeks. I will never know exactly what happened the day they found out, but I can imagine it. I picture a man in a hard hat knocking on the door. Mark answers, confused. The man hands him a formal-looking letter. It's a notice from the new property owner, a development company. It informs him that he is trespassing on private property and that he has 30 days to vacate the premises before the house is scheduled for demolition. I imagine the look on his face as he read that letter. The confusion turning to shock, then to dawning horror, and finally to rage. My phone started ringing about an hour after I imagined that scene happening. It was Mark. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, and again, and again. His voicemails were a journey. The first one was angry and confused. "Linda, what the hell is this? Some guy just came to the door with an eviction notice. This is a mistake. Call me back right now." The next one was angrier. "This is my house. You can't do this. I'm calling my lawyer. You're going to be in so much trouble for this, Linda." The voicemails kept coming. His voice started to change. The anger began to be mixed with panic. "Linda, please, you have to call me. We need to talk about this. This can't be happening." Finally, after about the 10th call, I picked up the phone. "What, Mark?" I said, my voice calm and steady. He exploded. He was screaming, yelling, cursing. He called me every horrible name you can think of. He said I was a thief, a liar, a crazy woman. I let him scream. I held the phone away from my ear and just waited. When he finally ran out of breath, there was silence. "Are you done?" I asked. "How could you do this?" he yelled, his voice cracking. "It's very simple, Mark," I said, my voice like ice. "It was never your house. You forgot. You signed a quitclaim deed over 10 years ago. You never put your name back on the title. You've been living in my house, and I sold it." The silence on the other end of the phone was absolute. I could almost hear his brain trying to process this, trying to dig up that old, forgotten memory. You, he stammered. "You have 30 days to get your things and get out," I said, "just like you told me." Then I hung up the phone. I sat there in my quiet apartment, and I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt quiet. A deep, profound quiet. The storm was finally over. The news of what happened spread through our circle of friends like wildfire. People were shocked. Some were horrified. But many people, especially the women, quietly told me, "Good for you." I heard through the grapevine what happened next. Mark and Chloe had to scramble to find a place to live. The rental market was tough, and they had to take the first thing they could find, a small, dark apartment in a noisy complex across town. It was a long way from their dream home. The stress of losing the house, the humiliation, the financial pressure, it was too much for their new relationship. They started fighting constantly. I heard that Chloe was furious with him. She had thought she was moving into a beautiful home with a successful man, and instead she was living in a cramped apartment with a man who had been outsmarted by his ex-wife. She left him after only a few months. The glamorous life he had promised her was a lie. His business suffered too. The story got around. The tale of the hotshot businessman who lost his own house to his ex-wife because of a paperwork error. It made him look foolish. It made him look careless. Clients started to drift away. His reputation was damaged. Karma, it seems, has a way of working things out. About a year after I sold the house, I was sitting right here in my new condo. I had used the money from the sale to buy this place. It's not huge, but it's mine. Every single thing in it, I chose. The blue color on the walls, the comfortable sofa, the paintings of the sea. It is a reflection of me, and only me. It is my sanctuary. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door, and there he was, Mark. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked like he had aged 10 years. His shoulders were slumped. His clothes were wrinkled. His eyes were red and tired. All the confidence, all the arrogance was gone. He just looked broken. "Linda," he said, his voice rough. I didn't say anything. I just waited. "I lost everything," he whispered. And then he started to cry. Not quiet tears, but deep, gut-wrenching sobs. "The business, it's failing. Chloe left me. I'm living in that horrible apartment. I have nothing." He looked past me into my bright, clean, peaceful home. I could see the envy in his eyes, the regret. "I was such a fool," he cried. "Such a proud, stupid fool. I threw away the best thing I ever had. I lost you. I lost our home. I'm so sorry, Linda. I am so, so sorry." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. Can I come in? Can we talk? Maybe we can try again. I've changed. I know I've made mistakes." He wanted to come back. Now that his new life had crumbled to dust, he wanted to crawl back to the life he had thrown away. I looked at this broken man on my doorstep. I felt many things. I felt pity. I felt sadness for the path he had chosen. But I did not feel love. That love was gone, burned away by his betrayal. "No, Mark," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "You cannot come in." The last bit of hope in his eyes died. "I forgive you," I told him. And I meant it. I forgave him not for his sake, but for my own. Carrying the anger and the hurt was like carrying a heavy bag of rocks. I was tired. I put the bag down. I forgave him so I could be free. "I forgive you for my peace," I said. "But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. And it doesn't mean I have to let you back into my life." I looked out at the ocean for a moment, then back at him. "What we had is over, Mark. It's a chapter that's closed. I've started a new book now, and you are not in it." He nodded slowly, like a man in a daze. He wiped his face with his sleeve. He turned around without another word and walked away, back to the life his choices had built for him. I closed the door. I didn't lock it out of fear. I locked it out of respect for the new, beautiful life I had built on the other side. The moral of my story is not about revenge. It's about truth. It's about knowing what is rightfully yours and having the courage to stand up for it. I was quiet for a long time. I let other people tell me what my life should be. I let someone else make me feel small and worthless. But I learned that your power is always inside you, waiting for you to remember it's there. No one can take it from you. You can only give it away. I took my power back. And in doing so, I found a peace and a happiness I never knew was possible. My dear friends, if my story has touched your heart, if it has given you even a little bit of strength, please let me know. Subscribe to this channel. Please click that subscribe button right now. By subscribing, you are building this community with me. You are saying that stories of healing and strength matter. You are ensuring that other people who are sitting in the dark right now can find this light. Let's grow this family together. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought. Tell me your story. Your words have power. You never know who you might inspire. Please give this video a thumbs up. That simple like button helps more than you know. It tells the world that this message is important and that it should be shared. And finally, share this video. Share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter. Share it with anyone who needs to be reminded of their own strength tonight. From my heart to yours, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being part of my healing. Remember, no matter how dark the night seems, the morning always comes. And sometimes you get to wake up to the sound of the ocean. Be strong, my dear friends. Be strong.